hands. How many people were able to read the first 30 pages? A few? Oh, most people. That's great. Okay, great. So we're not going to cover those things. We're going to cover some other things. So let me see. Well, thank you all for joining us today. My name's Phil, and I'm your presenter today. So with that, I'm going to try to present. Let me see. Where'd my mouse go? Oh, somewhere else. Okay, I'm going to share my screen and see what happens. Okay. Wow, you guys all got really small. But we'll see what happens. Okay. So, can you guys see the screen? 7 habits. Yep, it worked. Unbelievable. Okay. Okay, just arranging a few things on my screen. Sorry, your professor has not done this way before, but that's okay. We'll figure out something eventually. Can we get you all? There we go. Hi, Renee. Thanks for joining us. Maybe Tish or someone can add your name and email to the list, our Google spreadsheet where we have a list of folks that are participating so that we can get good communication. We also have a WhatsApp group. So we've tried to add most of you to that. So hopefully you saw the announcement and you're here. So
yeah, I'm adding her to the roster.
Good. That's great. And now I can see an inch of Malika's face. This is exciting. There she is. Now I can see most of Danny's face. There we go. Okay, great. Okay, so 7 habits. Let's begin. Quick agenda for today. An instructor intro. Hi, I'm your instructor. We'll go through some ground rules. We'll do a brief class member intro. We'll talk briefly about Western versus Eastern management styles, since we have a lot of different cultures on this call. It'll be very helpful to just have some idea of how things happen. And today we're going to be doing a 7 habits overview. So we're going to talk through all 7 habits. We'll see where they all fit together. And then we'll talk about some homework, ways to apply things so that you can get better and better. So anyone here want to be an absolute failure in life? No. Oh, good. Well, you're in the right class. So that's a good thing. Okay, so a little bit about me, a little background. Here's a picture from of my 4 kids and wife. I have twin boys and 2 older girls. So quick background is that my family represents 3 different continents. My wife, Ellen, was born in the Netherlands and grew up in Boston with Indonesian immigrant parents. And so 3 of my children were adopted from Thailand. And my heritage includes, on my mother's side, some people who didn't come over with Christopher Columbus, but came about a few years later to get out of debtor prison. They sent him to America. And then on my father's side, just the 3rd generation German immigrants. So I've got long-time immigrants, relatively short-time immigrants, and all that kind of stuff. So unfortunately, my family comes from all over the world, but I was born in Dayton, which is about an hour west of Columbus. I went to school in Cleveland, which is about 2 hours north of Columbus, and now I work in Columbus. And so I've been in Columbus except for the time when I've been traveling the world. So we've got all kinds of European, American, Dutch, Thai, Asian, whatnot, and 36 years of cross-cultural relations and interactions. So I worked for a very small software company. I was the 7th employee. It grew up to about 50 people and then was bought by a humongous international company with over 100,000 employees. Was there for about 15 years. Then I worked for a church for 5 years, and then I've been working for IFI for 10 years. So in that time, I've hired over 40 people. I've only had to fire 3. That's a good thing. And I've hired about 20 different interns through the IFI program. And I'm also a follower of Jesus. And so things about God and the Bible come out in pretty much everything I do and say, because it's just a part of who I am. So that's kind of the way I teach. So don't be surprised if somewhere along the way I refer to the Bible. If you have questions about that, you can ask, and we can also talk outside of class as well. So that's a little bit about me. And so next thing we're going to talk about is ground rules. So hey, can we unmute for a moment and let's just talk about how do we want to work together? You know, so I can do all the talking and you guys can stare at me with blank looks, or we can interact some. So hey, how do we want to work together? How do you guys want to how do you like to be in classes with the classes you've had, since most of you are currently students?
I like discussion-based classes.
Say that one more time. My sound was too down.
I like discussion-based classes a lot more.
Okay, discussion-based. That's great. Okay. And today's going to be more of a presentation, but then the next few will be much more interactive. But thanks. Okay. Discussion-based. Who else? What do you like to do in classes?
I'd like to hear more practical example stories.
Okay.
About what we learn. Yeah.
Practical examples and stories. That's great. What else? How should we treat each other? Should we ignore each other? Should we listen to each other? How do we want to interact with each other?
I think we should raise hand first and then speak, because we have so many people here.
Yeah, we'll have to figure out a way to answer without talking over top each other. So, but I'll say for now that we want to have a degree of respect with one another, you know, so we'll try to treat each other with respect. Sound like a good idea? All in favor, say aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Aye. You can find another class. Okay. Okay, what else? Discussion-based, respect, practical examples, take turns. How else do we want to work together?
Sorry. How about some ice breaking in the beginning? Because
Ice breaking.
7
Good.
o'clock, sometimes people just have finished dinner, maybe tired.
Yeah, let's find a way to get awake. Okay, and so that'll be good. So we'll have icebreakers. In fact, in just a moment, we're going to have an icebreaker. Give you a chance to introduce yourselves. So, okay. Another thing I like to think of is like to keep things that we talk about in class confidential. You know, so right after class, you don't want to post on Facebook, oh, you know, Mike said blah, blah, blah. So anyway, so we want to try to be on time. I know this is a Zoom world, but nobody should be caught in traffic. But I do understand that sometimes cooking food or picking up food can cause delays. So just try your best to be on time. Engaged. So at the end of the class, everybody should be married or at least engaged. Is that what that means? No. Means that we like to have interaction and involvement. You know, if we're going to have a focus on some practical examples and stories and ice breaking and discussion based, then it means everybody needs to be engaged. You know, so think about how you can be a part of and interact with what we're talking about. Okay. So with that, let's do some class engagement. You've heard a little bit about me and my nationality and background. And some of you are working, some of you are in school. So if you could just briefly give us your name, where you're from, and what your major is. So I'm going to pick people because on my screen, everybody's in nice orderly fashion. And I presume that on your screen, it's in a different orderly fashion. So Mike, tell me about yourself.
My name's Mike Kraniak. I'm from the United States. My father's from Czechoslovakia. I worked in the computer field for 37 years and then came to IFI and have been there for going on 2. And my major in college was computer engineering at Case Western Reserve up in Cleveland, which happens to be the same school that Phil went to.
Ah, how about that? Secret's out. Okay, Danny, tell me about yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Danny, and I'm married to the same woman, one woman, for 37 years, and I'm sitting right beside her now. And I'm a grandpa and a father of 2 kids, Luke and Sarah, who both live in Central Ohio. And and I'm a graduate of the Ohio State University School of Social Work. In addition to that, I've studied theology at other schools as well, Trinity and Luther Rice Seminary.
Cheryl.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Walker. Also coincidentally married for 37 years. I'm German and English and Irish. I also went to OSU and graduated in English education. That's it.
Good. Malika.
Hi, I'm Malika. I don't go to college. I'm in high school. I'm not working. I'm from Nepal.
Great. So glad you could be here with us. Damayanti.
Hi, my name is Damayanti. I'm from India. I'm a first-year graduate student in linguistics. I work on tribal languages spoken in central part of India.
Wow, exciting. You have to teach us how to say hi in 22 different languages by the end of the course. Or 1 or 2, if you can join us. So anyway, good.
Yeah.
Shah.
Hi, I'm Xia and I'm from China. So I graduated from Ohio State University with a degree in early child education. So I'm working at the childcare right now. Also, I'm one of the 5 interns with IFI.
Great. Glad you're here. Tish.
Hi, I'm Tish Kranak. I am married to Mike. We've been married 30 years. My dad's actually from Ireland, so I'm first generation. My mom is all over the place. But the Irish homestead is still in the family, so that's pretty cool. I got to see where my dad was born in Ireland a couple of years ago. So I am majority Irish. I'm at least half Irish. I have worked a lot of different places in a lot of different fields. I have an associate's degree in accounting, but have worked in accounting and education, and now working for IFI with the mobilization department. And let's see, we have 2 kids. Our son will be 28 and a graduate of Wright State, and Renee, who joined us, and she can tell you more about herself. So you'll be able to find out then. And I think that's about it.
Okay. Vivian.
Hi, my name is Vivian. I'm from Rwanda, and I studied architecture and theology, and I'm currently one of the interns with IFI.
Great. Dora.
Hi, my name is Dora, and I'm from China, and I study environmental science in college. And now I'm intern with IFI.
Good. Jungshua.
Hi everyone, I'm Junshuo. I graduated from University of Hampshire and I got my master's degree in electrical engineering. And I'm one of the interns in IFI currently.
Good. Maddie.
Hi, I'm Maddie. I am born and raised in the United States. I'm currently a summer intern for IFI, as well as a waitress at a local restaurant, and then I am studying communications with 2 minors in Spanish and English, heading into my senior year.
Great. Glad to have you with us. Sheng. Dr. Guo.
My name is Sheng. I come from China, and my major is mathematics, and I'm now a lecturer at OSU.
Yep. He got his PhD in December, was it? Or something like that. So that's great. Catherine, who just stood up or walked around, or there she is.
My name is Kathy. I was born and raised in Columbus. My grandmother came from Germany, and then other than that, I'm not sure what else I am made up of. I graduated in 2018 with my bachelor's in social work, and now I'm a licensed social worker, and I work with women who are pregnant who are experiencing substance use disorders.
Great, glad you're with us. Okay, Yang Yuchen, hello.
Hi. My name is Yuchen. I study in Northeastern University for the leadership major. This is my second year of my master degree. Yeah.
Great. Where's Northeast at?
Northeastern is in Boston.
Boston. Oh, cool. Well, great. Glad you could join us. Are you in Boston or in Columbus?
In Boston.
Wow. Unbelievable. Who invited you to join us?
Mike.
Mike. Wow, what a great guy. So you'll be part of our learning team for the next year. That's so exciting.
Yeah.
So, okay, Zhujiang, tell us about yourself.
Hello, my name is Zhijiang Chen. Yeah, and you can call me Frank Chen. And I'm a transfer student at ISBRIN. I come from China, and I studied 2.5 years in my previous Chinese university, and now I'm a computer information science student at the Ohio State University. And my plan is graduate in 3 years, and I want to take a PhD degree after graduate from here.
Wow. Good.
Yeah,
thanks for sharing.
I study in a study room, so it's inconvenient for open the video.
Okay. Not a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Wita, are you there? Can you tell us about yourself?
Hi, my name is Prawita. My nickname is Wita. You can call me Wita. I'm from Indonesia. I just graduated from Ohio State University, majoring early childhood and elementary education. Right now, I'm jobless. Okay, done.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you could join us.
Yeah. Thank you.
Ritao, can you tell us a little about yourself?
Hi. Okay, it shows that I'm unable to access camera, so I cannot open my camera currently. Sorry.
Not a problem.
Okay, my name is Ray Tao, and I came from China, and I don't have work now. I'm majoring in applied math physics track. Yeah.
Applied math and physics. Wow.
No. The applied math physics track.
Track. Okay.
Yeah. It is a sub
Okay.
major in applied math.
Great. Glad you could join us. Zeishu, how about you?
Hi everyone, this is Zishu and I'm from China and currently a third year undergrad in material science and engineering at Ohio State.
Okay. And then Renee, I think you might be the last one.
Hey, I'm Renee. I'm the daughter of Mike and Tish, who are also in this call. I'm adopted from China, and I just graduated with my political science degree this semester, and I currently work at a private school.
Oh, wow. Sounds exciting. Well, great. I'm so glad all of you are here with us today, and it should be a really good class. We'll be going on for several weeks, and hopefully you'll learn a lot along the way. Do feel free to ask questions and say things along the way. But now we're going to kind of talk a little bit about the material. So that brings us into the next one. So for those of you who read the book, the introduction before page 1 says this: I'm your constant companion. I'm your greatest helper or heaviest burden. I will push you onward or drag you down to failure. I am completely at your command. Half the things you do, you might just as well turn over to me, and I will be able to do them quickly, correctly. I am easily managed. You must merely be firm with me. Show me exactly how you want something done, and after a few lessons, I will do it automatically. I am the servant of all great people, and alas, of all failures as well. Those who are failures, I have made failures. I am not a machine, though. I work with all the precision of a machine plus the intelligence of a human being. You may run me for a profit or turn me for ruin. It makes no difference to me. Take me, train me, be firm with me, and I will place the world at your feet. Be easy with me, and I will destroy you. Who am I? I am habit. So, if you've ever brushed your teeth, you know, it's like you intentionally did it the first few times, but then the next couple times and the rest of your life, it's just you put your toothpaste, you stick it in your mouth, and then you're eventually done. You know, and you don't really think about it most of the time, right? You know, so, but that's the way a habit is. Unfortunately, a habit can be really, really good, or a habit can be really, really bad. And so the thing is, we as humans are made up of, you know, the way that we work and the way that we think. A lot of things become habit. And the very important thing is to think about it and make sure that the things that you want to be habits are becoming habits, and to remove habits that are not helpful. Okay? So with that, let's talk about these things a little bit. First, I'm going to just talk for a moment about some Eastern time management versus Western time management. So just kind of a minor cross-cultural education experience. So 7 habits include time management from what we call a Western view. But before we do that, I've got another audience participation question, which is, what is success? How do you define success? Or does your mother define success for you? Or your father define success? Does it come from within you, or does it come outside of you? Anybody want to share what they think about success? What is success? Go ahead, Zhejiang.
For my opinion, I think the success is to do something we really want, and I pursue to contribute more to the society. And I think, you know, wherever in China or in United States, students or some children cannot get into the higher education. And I think the goal of my life is to create more chances for them.
Wow, that's really a noble purpose. So create opportunities for others. Good. What else is success? Who else can add to that? Or
Achievement.
Achievement. Okay. Good. What else?
To me, it means accomplish a goal. It can
Okay.
be big or small. Doesn't matter.
Great. So I was successful at brushing my teeth today. That's good. And some of you are successful at getting degrees. Dr. Guo, Wita, master's, some others. Renee just got her degree too. So that's great success. Okay, so let me ask a question like that. Do you have to have 100% to have success? Anybody think yes? No? What about your mother? How would your mother answer this? Yep, 100%, only 100%. Well, what about this? OSU says a 93 is the minimum score that you can get and still have an A. Your parents won't even know that you got a 93. You didn't get 100, but that's okay. You still got an A, and that's all that they'll see, right?
What about a driver's license? I set a goal that I want to get a driver's license, and I pass or fail. And if I pass, if they give me the driver's license, I don't care how many mistakes I made.
That's true. So you can make mistakes on the way to being a success. That's a really good point, Danny. What do you think? What about 60%? Do you think 60% is still a success?
I would say for me, if I were to take a calculus test right now, and I've never taken calculus before, and if I were to get a 60%, I would call that a success.
Okay, so for doing something you've never studied and still getting a passing rate, then that's still okay. But like for Dr. Guo, if you got a 60% on a math test, would you be happy? Would that be success, or would that be not success?
It depends on the situation. If it counts on GPA, then maybe it's not very good result. But if just pass or fail, I think it's okay.
Well, I really appreciate you saying that, because it does, in some cases, it depends on the situation. What about a 51%? Is that still good? Has anybody here ever heard of John F. Kennedy? He was a president of the United States in the 60s. What you may not know is that he won the election with 50.2%. So he only had a 2%, lead over the other guy, which was actually Nixon. And he was elected, and he became the president, even though he only had just over 50%. So I'm going to really push your boundaries for a moment and say, what about 33%? Do you think you could be 33%, only successful 1 out of 3 times and still be successful?
I think success also has to do with what you take away from it.
So tell me more about that.
Like if your goal was to, I don't know, learn a new language, and you're like brand new at it, kind of similar to what a couple other people were saying, is like if your goal is to learn a new language, for example, and then like the first time I try it and I take a test, I like actually walk away knowing a third of it, then that's good. And then the next time I go and I learn another third of it, then that's good. And so like slowly it's accumulating, even though like the first time I did it, I didn't get 100%. At least I'm learning something as I go along.
Well, that's a great point, because I don't remember it since it was quite a few years back, but the very first time I rode a bicycle, I was not successful. I'm pretty sure I fell on my face, you know, and then my dad helped me a little bit more, and then I got a little bit farther, and I eventually made it. And now I could ride a bike without falling off, I think, most of the time. So, but back to the 60% for a minute. Anybody here like football? International football, that is, opposed to American football, but in America we call it soccer. Anybody like international football?
Mm.
Yeah, is that a good thing? Okay, so when you're playing football, you watch, one of the statistics that you keep track of is how much time does your team have the ball? Because again, you're not going to have the ball 100% of the time. You're not going to have it 93% of the time, but usually the team that has the ball 60% or more of the time usually wins. So that's a good thing. But so speaking of sports, let's talk about 33% for a second. Anybody ever see a baseball game? Anybody heard of baseball?
Mm.
Well, I looked up in the Baseball Hall of Fame, and the very best batter in all of history of the National Baseball Association in America, his batting average was .366, so it's slightly over .33, which is 33%. But it's he was the absolute best. But that meant that 2 out of 3 times he went up to hit the ball, he got out. So 2 out of 3 times he never made it to base. And actually most of the people in baseball, which I have some friends that are really sad that baseball's not starting yet, and it's unsure whether they will start, but the majority of baseball players only make a hit 1 out of 4 or 1 out of 5 times. So 25% to 20 to 25% of the time. And yet they're called a success, and they end up in the Baseball Hall of Fame, even though they're only successful 20% of the time or 25% of the time. Now this guy was really exceptional. 1 out of 3 times he got a hit. So just something to think about when you're thinking about success. You know, there's a couple components that we've talked about here. One is it internal that you determine whether it's success, or is it external? Is it something your parents or your friends or your dad or your grandma, do they determine if you're a success or not? Or is it something internal? Secondly is, you know, it can be a big goal or a small goal, you know, and still you can be successful. Even if it was a 5-minute thing, you could be successful. It could be a 5 or 6 year thing, like getting a PhD, or, you know, learning a new language, or studying in a foreign country. So it could be small or big. And you might make mistakes along the way, you know, so that's okay, but you're still learning. And success also depends on the situation, you know, because what might be a success for Kathy might be a complete dismal failure for Shun, for instance. Okay, so anyway, that was there. So now we're going to read a story and think about something. Okay, anybody see a battleship? My son actually is in the Navy, and he's actually on the brand new LCS type of battleship. That's not this picture. This was a different one that I found online. So let me tell you a story about battleships. So there were 2 battleships that were out doing maneuvers and doing testing and sailing around, but it was foggy. And so as they were going along, one of the captains said, "What is that?" And someone said, "Look, there's a light bearing on the starboard bow," which means it's kind of straight ahead. And so the captain said, "Is it steady or is it moving?" And the lookout replied, "It's steady, Captain," which means we're on a collision course. Deet, 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 deet. Not good, okay, for ships out at sea. So the captain said to the signal man, "Signal that ship. We're on a collision course. Advise you change your course 20 degrees. Back came the answer. "We advise you change your course 20 degrees. So that means turn, you know, like that. So the captain said, "I am the captain. Change your course 20 degrees. So that's what he said. And the other one said, "Hey, I'm just a lowly second-class seaman, but you had better change your course 20 degrees. And now the captain was furious and he said, "Send this message. I'm a battleship. Change your course 20 degrees. What do you think? Who should change their direction? The captain, the big guy in charge, or just a lowly second-class seaman? Who should change so they don't run into each other and sink one of their boats?
Who do you think?
Depending on which boat is good.
Any thoughts?
I think if they both change course,
Okay, so that's a good thing. Maybe both of them could change course. Okay, good. What else could we do here?
It'd probably be easier for the smaller boat to change course. And then if they both change course, what if they change it to the same direction? And then they're in the same boat again.
All right, so they're coming along. Oh, let's both turn this way. Beep. Oop, now we're still going to collide. Not good. Okay. So the smaller boat could change. Okay, they could both change. They need to coordinate the change that they're making so that they don't still collide. Okay. What else could they do?
Is one of the ships stationary, like the second class man? Is he at like a docking station or something?
Oh, Kathy, have you read this?
I don't.
So back came the answer from this side. He says, "I'm a lighthouse." So guess what? The captain decided he was going to change course because the lighthouse was on a rock on the land. And so even if it was a warship, you know, that means it's very strong and able to attack. But if one of them happens to be on land and the other one's a boat, then the boat has to change course. What do you think? So we've got a couple questions then. So have you ever had a situation where you're in let's say an argument, discussion, controversy with someone, and you feel like, you know, you're the captain, you've got position, you've got power, you've got authority, you're in a mighty battleship that's able to sink anything, and everybody around you has to change what they're doing to interact with you? Anybody had a situation like that? Or anybody had a situation where someone in your life has been like that captain? You have to change to be in my family or in my class or in my dorm or whatever. You know, so sometimes we encounter people that are very fixed in their situation.
I think I'm not like that, but my father, like the captain role. I need to change what he wants me to be when I was stay with him when I was a kid. Yeah.
Okay. So sometimes we've had fathers or parents or authorities who have been like the captain. Yep. So have you ever had a case where, you know, somebody in your life has been like the captain, and yet maybe you're sitting in the lighthouse and it's like, well, I can't move. You're going to have to change. You know, anybody had any situation like that? Kind of interesting, huh? So then let's look at the third question here. So what do you think the moral of this story is?
We need to be willing to change our perspectives.
Why do we need to be willing?
Because we're not always right.
Okay, that's true. Anything else somebody wants to add?
I think it's a matter of whether you want to, sometimes it requires changing in order to grow in an area as well.
Right, so Damiante, as a language expert, may be able to tell us that the way I pronounce ABC in English just won't work in another language, right? So I have to change.
When you're in a disagreement with somebody, it's always good to try to find out what their perspective is to understand why you're disagreeing.
Yep, that's the lighthouse thing. Kathy kind of alerted us to that. It's like, well, wait a minute, maybe both of these things are not boats. Maybe there's some other piece that I need to know. So.
Yeah, I also agree with everybody what said. Like, that's what I was thinking when you asked the first question. Like, I think I cannot make a generalization about everybody, but I have been in situations many times where I thought I was correct and everybody is, like wrong and they should change themselves and not me, it's their fault. But then as I grew up, I understood that just hearing story from my side is never, doesn't give a complete picture. So it's always good to have a understanding of both the situations and then making the decision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I found that to be true, especially learning Chinese. There's all these tones that keep coming out, and I'm like, I said one thing and it meant something else. And I said something and nobody understood because I didn't have the right tone. I said something. Anyway, oh well. It's an opportunity to learn, so that's great. Any other comments? Things that we can learn from this little story?
Well, I think that we need to cooperate with each other, just like that two ships need to cooperate to avoid a collision.
That's true. It's often important for us to learn from each other, learn with each other, and find a way to learn together.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So was that a helpful exercise? Think about, challenge your mind a little bit?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, with that, now we'll get back to the Western versus Eastern type of view. So one of the things that I've found is that the Western view is much more linear, very results-oriented, very sequential, very item and object driven, and very calendar-centric. Whereas other cultures tend to be much more relationally centric and some other things like that. So that's good and bad. So some of the advantages, well, it's very goal-oriented, very results-oriented. It's great for results-oriented people. It is individualistic centric, and it's very linear. You do this, then you do that, you do this, then you do that. Some of the disadvantages are that it's less relational. So you may just have met a good friend and you look at your watch, you're late. And so you say, bye, haven't seen you for 5 years, but I don't have time for you now. And so that can kind of destroy your relationship. It's less flexible. There's less time for being helpful of others. Good Samaritan activities. It's more difficult for relational people to be focused on time and details. And there's less opportunity for collaboration because everybody's focused on their own needs and their own things. So that gives us an opportunity then to find some treasure. So we believe each one of you has an opportunity and possesses leadership skills, and that each of you is a leader in some way, either in your career, in your family, with your friends. And by leader, I mean here that you influence someone, that someone has ever followed your advice on where to go for lunch or what to put on your pizza or something like that. Leadership is influence at its most basic level. So I think each one of you are leaders, and hopefully through this class you can learn how to be a better leader of yourself and leader of others and influence others. And therefore we think that character education is essential, and that people must be able to collaborate with others, just like, what was it? Rita was just saying a moment ago. And we believe that leadership training will have a positive impact on everyone's achievement. So I don't have a treasure chest with gold coins in it to give you, but I do have some experience and insight that I think will be helpful. So with that, we're going to jump into some 7 habits things. But as I said before, I kind of present things of the 7 habits from my framework, which includes the things from the Bible. So most of the material that you'll see or hear or we'll talk about over the next few days and weeks comes from Stephen Covey and the materials he has there. One in the middle there is called The Leader in Me, and that's how it, Shah and Wita, especially, you might be interested in that book. I actually have 1 extra copy if either of you are interested. But it's how they've applied these principles as early as elementary school education and up into college, both in America, Indonesia, in China, all around the world. At the time the book was written, it was being used in 38 or more countries. You know, so it's, you know, there are some practical pieces that are somewhat related to the Western mindset and Western time frame, but there's a lot of things that are universal and are open to others. So anyway, at the bottom here is a very important slide or point, which is I usually do this training for our IFI interns, and so that's why it says interns here. But really, it's a value for each one of you that's on the call. So we only get one chance to prepare our interns or ourselves for a future that none of us can possibly predict. What are we going to do with that one chance? And so right now we're in a future that none of us could have predicted 2 months ago. None of us had any idea this was going to happen. But here we are. And guess what? We're alive. We're still going, you know, and we're still learning. Most people are still attending school or working or something. And so we only have one chance to prepare for the future. You know, it's not like we're running a science experiment and you got Phil number 1, and Phil number 1 is going to go over here and be a computer engineer, and Phil number 2 is going to go over here and be a teacher, and Phil number 3 is going to go over here and be an astronaut. I really wanted to be an astronaut when I was little. Didn't quite work out for me. But, you know, we can't run experiments like you can in a lab on ourselves and say, well, I'm going to be this or I'm going to be that. You know, we only get one chance. And so we have to do our best to prepare. So I'm glad that each of you have taken time today to be with us, and hopefully this will help you prepare. So remember too that there's other people in your life that you may have an opportunity to influence. And so this could be a good time to think about others, just like Zhejian was saying, you know, the reason he's learning and wants to get a master's and then get a PhD is so that he can help others have more opportunity to learn. And so the things that you learn in this class should be things that you can apply to yourself and also to give freely to other people so that they can, you know, manage themselves and be better leaders and have more success. So with that, one of the key things that leads into the first habit, actually the very first words in the Bible, it says, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. And so that leads us into the first habit, which is be proactive. and have a can-do attitude, which is a look at our attitude and the way that we approach things. You know, when someone asks you to do something, is your first response, I could never do that? Or is your first response, well, give it a try? You know, and this is kind of, thinking back to that battleship example, are we stuck in our ways, or are we willing to interact and possibly change and possibly learn something along the way? So are you in control of your feelings, or are you often mad? Do you often say things like, I have to do this, or I must do this, or I want to do this, or I prefer to do this? How does your words that you say affect the way that you're feeling and what you do? Do you blame others, or do you look at what you can do and think about it and say, well, let's give it a try? In the US, we have a little children's story actually that's about a little train that was trying to get up a hill, but it was a really big hill and it was a really small train engine. But the engine said, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. And eventually it made it up to the top and made it over the hill. So, or do you just say, oh, that's a big hill, why bother? But the first habit is be proactive. Everybody say with me, be proactive.
Be
proactive.
Proactive.
Ah, that's great. You guys are doing good. Okay, so thinking about that then, and then let's look back here. This is so much more fun to do in person. So, but pretend you have a Coke bottle and you shake it up really hard, okay? What happens when you shake a bottle of soda? And then you open it up. That's right, it explodes. And so the question is, if you have in one hand a bottle of Coke and the other hand a bottle of water, and you shake them up really well, which one is your life like when you get shaken up? Are you like the bottle of water that you can be shaking all day and you open it up and there's no impact? Or are you like the bottle of Coke that as soon as you start loosening it up, you get this wild picture? Isn't that an amazing picture? Yeah. Like a volcano. When you're a volcano, you're reactive. When you're like water, you're proactive. You think about, well, how do I want to respond? How do I want to react? What should I be doing? There's actually a proverb, which is a wise saying from the Bible that says, a fool gives full vent to his anger, but a wise man keeps himself under control. You can act like a water bottle, or you can act like a bottle of Coke. So think about for yourself, how do you handle things that shake you up? Like, what was your response when you first heard you had to stay inside? Was your first response to yell at the president, or yell at the governor, or, do you say, okay, well, I'm gonna go inside? So think about how you respond. And this first thing of being proactive is all about choosing your response. In between the stimulus and the response, there's an opportunity to choose. So if you think about, if you go down the street and you see a dog sleeping and you walk by and kick it, what's the dog gonna do? Ruff, right? It's gonna react. But in between the stimulus, which in this case is a kick, and the response, we as humans have the opportunity to choose how are we gonna react. We can choose our response. The bottle of Coke can't choose which way it's gonna respond. The bottle of water actually can't explode, it's just not gonna shake up. But we as humans have an opportunity to choose what's our response gonna be. That's what it means to be proactive. Sound good? So, yep, it explodes. Got it right. Okay. So with that, then let's think about what we call the circle of influence. In our life, there's a lot of things we're concerned about. I'm concerned about coronavirus. I'm concerned about my mother. I'm concerned about, you know, a lot of things. The price of tea in China. That's what we used to say when we were little. But, you know, of all the things that I'm interested in and I'm aware of, on the inside, this green circle says the circle of influence, things that you can actually control or change. So what do you think? Can I control the president of OSU? I've only met him twice. I took a picture with him, but I really can't influence him that well. What about the president of the US? Nope, really can't influence him either. I've never met him, and I don't think he would listen to me either. So, but what about, you know, someone in my life, you know, like, you know, we got Danny and Cheryl. They've been married 37 years. You know, do you think that Danny can control Cheryl? What do you think, Danny?
Okay.
Cheryl just laughed.
She just laughed. Okay. What do you think? Can you control Cheryl?
No. No, I can't.
Can you influence her though?
Yeah.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah. And then Cheryl, can you control Danny?
I might try.
You could try. Does it work all the time?
Nope. Nope.
Does it ever work?
Sometimes, but the long term, I don't usually like the result, and he doesn't either.
Okay.
Influence, that's a better realm. That works better.
Yep. Yeah, so things that you have some degree of influence on versus things that you can't control, but you might be aware of. And so this again is just looking at the high level, looking at some things that are involved in, and then what can you change? So let's look at a couple things. You can't control other people, your husband, your wife. You can't control the weather. You can't control the things that have happened in your past. And you can't really control the way people treat you. And you can't control how your professor is going to give you assignments or projects or the due dates or things of that nature. But there are some things that you can control, like your attitude, your mood, your reaction to good or bad things that happen, and how you treat other people. What do you think? What else can you have control over? Or what other things don't you have control over? Somebody's got to have an example. Come on.
You can't control the future.
This is true. We can't control when we're going to be out of lockdown.
But I can control how I respond and if I stress out about the future.
Right. We can choose our response. Good. So then there's a couple things that I've read in the Bible that come to mind when I read this, which is, I have told you these things so that in me you have peace. This is Jesus speaking. In this world you have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. So we don't have to be stressed out because God has overcome the world. And in 1 John it says, the one who is in you is greater than the one who is in the world. So, great. So that leads us to the second habit. First habit is what? Be proactive. Say it with me. Be proactive.
Be proactive.
The second one is begin with the end in mind.
Begin with
the end in mind.
Okay, great. So what does it mean to begin with the end in mind? It means I plan ahead and set goals. I do things that have meaning and make a difference. I'm an important part of my campus or community, and I look for ways to be a good citizen. But to begin with the end in mind, you must know whose you are and what you're called to do. Some of the work we'll be doing with the interns especially will be on gifts and callings and abilities. But think about it. You know, what do you hope to do in the next 10 years? Some of you hope to graduate within 10 years. I once knew a student that took 9 years to get a PhD. Dr. Gual didn't take 9 years. He's too smart for that. But sometimes it happens like that. You know, what do you want to do in 20 years? You know, have you ever sat down and thought of what you want to do? Imagine, you know, a newspaper calls you 10 years from now and does an interview about you. What would you think? Hey, imagine 4 people are going to talk about you as well. These could be your family or friends. What would you want them to say? Would you want them to say that you're just a pent-up bottle of Coke waiting to explode? Or that you've had an amazing impact, you know, teaching children that have never been able to learn before? Have you ever thought about that, thinking about the future? It won't be a homework assignment this week, but next week we'll be doing a homework assignment like that to think about, you know, 10 years, 20 years from now, what do you want people to say about you? What do you want to have as the impact of your life? So that's one of the things that we'll be doing together over the next few weeks. So begin with the end in mind. I like this verse from the Bible that says, do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one gets the prize? Run in such a way as to get the prize. Everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training. They do it to get a crown that will not last, but we do it to get a crown that will last forever. Therefore, I do not run like a man running aimlessly. I do not fight like a man beating the air. No, I beat my body and make it my slave, so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified from the prize. So another way I've heard this say is that by beginning with the end in mind is that you have an opportunity to choose what you're going to say yes to and what you're going to say no to. And those choices determine a lot of things that happen. Because for every yes in your life, there's going to be a no. If I say yes, I'm going to attend a class Wednesday night at 7, then guess what? I can't go play basketball at 7 o'clock on Wednesday night. I can't go swimming at 7 o'clock on Wednesday night. I can't go practice for my driver's lessons at 7 o'clock on Wednesday night. By everything that we say yes to, there's going to be a couple things that are going to come up like, oh no, I want to do both. Now I know there's some party hoppers among the crew here today. And so you just say yes to all the parties and you just go from one to the next, to the next, to the next, you know, and you get home about 3 a.m. a little bit tired. Hopefully it's not an exam night, but now that exams are over, you won't have to worry about that. But anyway, just think about that, because like, for instance, when I was in 12 or 13, I really wanted to be an astronaut. But then later I decided, well, I don't think I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a math teacher. I was going to be just like Dr. Gual. But along the way, I started to learn about computers, and I found that I was really good with computers. And, you know, it's just like Zhejiang is, and that's why he's studying that. And so I changed my course, and I started learning about computers, not about rocket science. So depending on where you're going, that's what you need to put into your life. Otherwise, you're not going to make it to your goal. So has anyone here ever created a mission statement? You know, like the Shah mission statement, or the Vivian mission statement, or the Shemitah. Thanks for joining us, Shemitah. Shemitah mission statement. You know, here's an example one. My mission is to laugh a lot, learn as much as I can, work hard at home, school, and in my sports, be kind to others, take good care of myself, to get better at art. This is not my list because I'm not good at art at all. But, oh well, I do want to get better at photography, which is I guess it is a kind of art. But anyway, so we'll have to see. So, think about the things that you want to accomplish in life. Okay, what was the first habit? Be proactive, right? Be proactive. I cannot hear anybody. 1, 2, 3. Be proactive.
Be proactive.
Be proactive.
There we go. And the second one is
Begin with an end in mind.
The third is put first things first. Okay, say it with me. Put first things
First things first.
Put first things first.
So I'll tell you a funny story. The first time I read this or heard about all this stuff 30 years ago, I was like, they got the habits out of order. Put first things first should be first, right? But why is put first things first third? Well, the reason is that until you've been proactive and you've figured out where you're going, what your end is, beginning with your end in mind, you don't know what your priorities are. So you can't put first things first until you know what your priorities are and you've decided to take action. So here's a little description on this, is that I spend my time on things that are most important. This means I say no to things I should not do. I set priorities, make a schedule, and follow my plan. I'm organized. But we need to start with initiating and being proactive. Otherwise, we'll spend a lot of time on things that don't really matter. Once you know what you're supposed to be doing, you can set the priorities and think about what's coming next. So there's this diagram shows the relationship between important things and urgent things. So sometimes things happen that's not important and it's not urgent. Like for instance, junk mail, either junk email or junk mail in your mailbox. You know, it's not urgent and it's not important, but you could spend lots of time focusing on it. You know, but there are some things that are not necessarily, they're not urgent, but they are important, like doing your laundry. You know, you can get away with not doing your laundry for a week, maybe 2 weeks, but on the third week, you're going to be wondering, what am I going to wear? So it's not urgent, but then at some point it becomes urgent because that was your last pair of pants, and that was your last clean shirt, and that was your last, you know. And so it's you have to look at your life and look at where you're spending time. If you're spending all your time in this fourth area, it's not important and it's not urgent, then guess what? It's going to be like you're running aimlessly, going nowhere. Back in 1900, they did a study at some fire departments in, I think it was Chicago, and they found that 97% of the time, the fire department in Chicago was fighting fires. Okay, that's not a big shock. You know, that's what a fire department does, fights fires, right? You know, but so what they did is they realized they only had about 3% margin where they weren't focused on fires. And so they were talking one day and said, what should we do when we're not focused on fires? And so they said, well, we should help prevent fires. And so they came up with some fire detectors and some other technology that would help. And then they started, you know, some people made them and manufactured them, and they started to change the Chicago code so that whenever you build a house, you had to have a fire detector in it. And over time, they found that that was helpful, being able to detect a fire earlier, you know, before your neighbor sees flames coming out of your house. You know, that means that the fire department can be called earlier and things will go better, right? So they spent as little amount of time as they could. And what happened is that they found that they were fighting fires less and less. And so now the fire department, they just did a study 5 years ago on the fire department in Chicago. You know, so 110 years ago, they spent 97% of their time fighting fires. Anybody want to guess what percentage of time they spend fighting fires in, I think it was 2015? Any guesses?
30%?
30%. That's a good guess. Lower.
15%.
15%. Great guess. Again, need to go lower. 5%. Great guess. Nope, too high still.
3%. 3.
3. Oh, another great guess. Nope, too high.
1% maybe.
1%. Yep, another good guess. Too high. The answer is 0.5% of their time is actually fighting fires now. Because they spent time on the important things that were not urgent. You know, so when there's a fire, you have to fight the fire. But when there's no fire, think about what's the most important thing that you can do that's not urgent. And what they did was they developed fire prevention techniques and building codes and inspections and things like that. And so what happened over time is their crises decreased significantly, so that now, you know, they do a lot of, actually they do a lot more emergency work where it's called the first responder. So if an ambulance is busy, then they'll send a fire truck, you know, to help someone who's having trouble breathing or something like that. And so that's a first responder activity, but they're actually not fighting fires. They're just trying to be there and be a help and assistant. You know, so the same with your life. If you find that you're fighting fires all the time, you know, which is things that are urgent and maybe important, maybe not important. You know, when there is a fire in your house, it is very important that you put it out. But, you know, anyway, so just a thought about this matrix. What do you think? Can you imagine going from having crises to actually having structure and order so that you can plan where you're going and move forward? Does anybody feel like their life is in crisis? Maybe I should ask that. Not right now. It's kind of hard to be in crisis when you're all in your room by yourself. So anyway, so hopefully this will make a little bit more sense as we start thinking about some of these topics. But you know, time management, compare, is it important? Is it urgent? The more time that you can spend on the important but not urgent, that will help you plan and prepare for the future so that you have fewer crises to manage and you can actually be focused on the things that are most important to you. Okay, so that's just a guide as we move forward. Okay, so the first habit is, oh, this is I forgot, there's a slide here. It's a great demonstration that's really hard to do remotely, so we're going to skip it. Okay, back to our habits. The first habit is what?
Be proactive.
Proactive. Second.
Begin with
the end in mind.
Third.
Put first
things first.
And fourth. Think win-win. Think win-win. Okay, what's win-win? I want everyone to be a success. I don't have to put others down to get what I want. It makes me happy to see other people happy. I like to do nice things to others. When a conflict arises, I help brainstorm a solution. We can all win. Do you think it's possible for everyone to win? As long as you're not playing football against Michigan, you know, it's okay. You know? But, you know, most of life is not a football game. Most of life, you can actually work together. You can make progress together. You know, like doing the dishes after dinner with your roommates. You know, if everybody pitches in and helps out, everything will move faster, right? So this is an interesting picture. Can you see what that picture is?
Somebody standing on somebody.
Yeah. Have you ever literally done that or figuratively done that, where you've, you know, taken advantage of someone else's work and then either claimed it as your own or turned it in or something like that? Or maybe you've been in line and you know there's not enough, so you push someone out of line so that you can get their spot. Yeah. How does it feel to be pushed out of line? or to have someone take the work that you've done?
Bad.
Yeah, it does feel bad.
It's infuriating.
Infuriating. Oh, like a shaken Coke bottle, huh? So there's some shaking that happens. Yep. Anybody have
I
an
think it's
example of either?
discouraging.
Say that again, Shamita. I didn't quite hear you, Shamita.
I think it can get discouraging.
Ah.
So, okay, I think it can feel discouraging and you feel like, oh, I don't know if I want to try so hard the next time because this happened.
Yep.
So we can actually be discouraging others when we do that.
Right. So in America, we talk about what's called the golden rule, which is do to others what you would have others do to you. Which is if you wouldn't like it done to you, then don't do it to others, is a way to say it in negative, so, but just be kind and generous to other people, because nobody wants to be stood on. Not fun. So actually, when I've got 4 kids, I mentioned earlier, when my boys were like 2 and 3 and 4, I would come home from work, having worked all day, and lay down on the floor just exhausted. And then my boys would say, oh, look, a target. And they would just jump from wherever they were on top of me. So they wouldn't actually be standing on me, but they would be launching themselves and landing on me. So the end result looked a lot like this. But it was an actual fun way for them to interact with me after I'd been working all day, and I could keep my eyes closed for maybe 2 seconds in between their attacks. But I don't know that that's a good win-win example, but it was it was an example where I didn't where they had interaction with me, and it was kind of fun for everybody. So anyway, so let's go look at number 5. So the habits so far, what's number 1?
Be proactive.
Be proactive.
Be proactive.
Be proactive.
Number 2.
Begin with the
Begin with the end in mind.
3.
Put first things first.
4.
Think
win-win.
Think win-win. And number 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Let's say that together. Think first to be understand, then to be understood. So this is hard. I think this is just hard for all of us people in general, because when you have a disagreement or an interaction, you have a tendency to want to tell everybody what you're thinking first. And I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking, and then I'll listen to you. But that hasn't worked real well for me when I've tried that before. So the habit here is seek first to understand, then to be understood. So here we have some notes that say, I listen to other people's ideas and feelings. I try to see things from their viewpoint. I listen to others without interrupting. I'm confident in voicing my ideas. Okay? So, a couple quotes here. One is, being listened to is so close to being loved that most people cannot tell the difference. What do you think? Do you like it when people listen to you? What about you, Cheryl? Do you like it when Danny says, well, tell me what you think?
It's one of my favorite things.
Oh, how does it make you feel?
I feel loved. I feel supported, like he cares.
Oh, good. Yep. Anybody else? How do you feel when someone listens to you?
It's my love language.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a great thing. That's a reference to another book that we won't be going over, but it's called The 5 Love Languages. So, anybody else?
Makes me feel that I matter.
Makes you feel like you matter. What do you mean by that?
That I have value.
Okay.
That somebody is willing to listen to what I have to say instead of just brushing it off.
Okay. Great. Anyone else? How could this help on a class project or in a work environment or with your parents or with your sibling?
So my husband once, when we were dating, he once told me this, and it blew my mind. So he used to lead a Bible study, and he actually said, you know, I think the best leaders are the ones that listen to other people's ideas and know how to incorporate and use those ideas, because we can't come up with all the best ideas ourselves. We need other people.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I heard somebody put it this way: God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. So get a clue. You should use your ears twice as much as you use your mouth. Because when you're using your mouth, you're not learning anything. But when you're learning using your ears, you may be learning something new. Okay, a related thing is one of the best ways to persuade others is with your ears, by listening to them. This is from the former Secretary of State, Dean Rusk. You think that could be possible? That if you listen to someone, they could actually change their mind? Yeah. Good. So I don't speak Chinese, and I don't read Chinese. But can anybody help me with this Chinese character? What does it mean?
Here.
Here.
Hear or listen. Yeah, but it also has some different components within it, right? I don't know. Can you see my mouse when I move it here? What's this?
Heart.
What's in the
Heart.
The heart.
Heart.
Yeah. Okay. And oh, what about this? Does this have any special meaning in Chinese character?
Ear.
Ear. Okay. So is there some connection with your heart in somewhere in there, the undivided attention? And does one of these images mean the eyes? Maybe on the top right or something like that?
The right, the second. I don't know how to describe that. But it looks like the eye, but it's not, it's kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
90-degree rotate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But
somebody told me that it's like undivided attention is listening with your eyes and your heart and your ears. So when it's like a full engagement. Like, like professors have told me that, when they're teaching a class and they can't see anybody's face is really difficult, because you don't know if you have your attention or if they got up and went to the bathroom or if they are even there. They just logged in and then they turned off their camera and who knows, you can't see anything. But when you're sitting down with a cup of coffee with someone and they're looking at you and they're looking right at you and you can tell you have their focus, as opposed to when you're talking to someone and they're like this, yeah, 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 oh, just a minute, I'll be right back. You ever have that happen? Do you feel like you have their attention? Not really. Do you feel important when that's happening? Not really. So I mean, some of these skills are actually be quite helpful both in the digital world but then also in the physical world when we get reconnected a little bit, right? Yep. So use your eyes, your ears, and your heart. Listen when you listen to someone, to hear. Okay? So this was all about seek first to understand, then to be understood. So an important part is that I want to say that it doesn't just mean take your opinion and your view and set it aside. It just means temporarily set it aside and take time to listen. But then once you've listened, say, well, hey, let me tell you what I think. You know, so it doesn't mean to completely ignore what you're thinking or to never tell somebody what your thoughts are. It just means to take turns and let the other person express their ideas first so that they feel heard. Because one of the other things that happens is that when you're, if you haven't been listened to, then most of your mind is thinking about what's wrong with the other person's thoughts. And you're spending more time arguing with them than actually listening to and trying to understand them. So if you listen first, then that's gonna, as the second quote said, you know, it's one of the best ways to persuade others is with your ears. Take time to listen to them, and once they feel heard and they feel loved and they feel valuable and they feel important, then you'll have a chance to express what your thoughts are, and then you can come to some collaboration. Make sense? Okay, so let's go through them again. What's the first thing?
Be proactive.
Be proactive.
Yep. Then what?
Begin with the end in
Begin with
mind.
the end in mind.
Yep. Third one.
First things
First things first.
Fourth.
Think, win, win.
Win.
Yep. 5.
Seek first.
Seek first to
Understand.
understand
And
and to be understood.
And habit number 6 is to synergize. What in the world does synergize mean? Oh, let's talk about it for a moment. So I value other people's strengths and learn from them. I get along well with others, even people who are different from me. I work well in a group. I seek out other people's ideas to solve problems. I know that 2 heads are better than 1. I am a better person when I let other people into my life and work. So another way to think about this is that 1 is too small a number for greatness. You know, so if you ever want to do things that matter, it's probably going to take a team. So here's an example. You know, when you have 2 people with 2 different opinions and, you know, you kind of don't really do what either one of them wants, but you know, get half of this person's or maybe 3/4, and this person you get half or 3/4 of their idea and you put them together, you end up with about 1.5. But if you cooperate, you know, both of your stuff can happen and you get about a 2 worth of energy. But when you have synergy, then, you know, you got 1 person plus 1 person, and, you know, sorry, Dr. Gaw, but, you know, 1 plus 1 is 3 or more, you know, so in, you know, synergistic language, it doesn't actually work in math, but in synergy, it works out. So as an example, let's look at this. Okay, this is a 2x4. You know, in America, we use wood a lot for most of our house constructions and apartments and things like that. You may have seen some buildings going up around campus before they shut down things. You know, they've got some steel columns with they put cement around, and then they put a lot of 2x4s up, you know, and that's how houses are built around here. So 1 2x4 can hold 600 pounds, right? So you would think 2 2x4s could hold 1,214 pounds. But given the different stories I've told you before, you probably can realize that, you know, it's not just going to be a simple take the first amount and multiply by 2. How much do you think that actually 2 2x4s could actually support? Any guesses out there?
3,000.
3,000. That's pretty good. So that's a good guess. Any other guesses? Remember that slide about success. You can be right 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 4 or 1 out of 5 times. You don't have to be perfect. Nobody here is getting 100%. You know, any guess is valuable.
£5,000.
5,000. Well, if we nail them together, that's about right. So 2 2x4s just set beside each other will hold about 1,800 pounds, which is really about 3 times the original value. But if you take the 2 2x4s and nail them together, then they can actually hold almost 5,000 pounds, you know, when you're building a house. That's incredible. So that means, you know, 2 together is more than just 1 times 2. It's an incremental or an exponential curve, I guess would be the right way in math terms, something like that. In the Bible, there's a story that says 1,000 will flee at the threat of one, and at the threat of 5, you will all flee away. So, you know, it's not just 1 times 5 or 1,000 times 5, it's everybody. So how does this make a difference? You know, is it easier to do things when everybody agrees with you, or is it helpful when you work on projects to have people with different skills and different abilities and different interests? You guys have all been part of group projects before, right? Do you like to have people that are exactly the same as you, or do you like to have people with different skills together?
Different skills.
Different skills. What about you, Shah?
Different.
Why?
Because we all have different strengths. And if we work together, we can utilize the strength together.
Yeah. That's true. Because, you know, think about how boring life would be if we were all the same. You know, if everybody was a girl, you know, life would be really boring. If everybody was Indian, you know, everything would be really boring because it'd be all the same. Although India is not a good example because there's so much diversity within India and however many thousand languages. Let's see, what's a good example of Portuguese? Yeah, how about Portuguese? If everybody spoke Portuguese and ate Portuguese food, you know, it'd be kind of bland, right? So we need some diversity. And that's one of the fun things about working with people from different countries is, wow, we got all kinds of diversity. We got some really amazing food. We got some really amazing cultures and backgrounds and dances and all kinds of things that we can celebrate together. So, yeah, I don't think it would be easier if everybody looked the same, spoke the same, was exactly the same. I've heard it said before, you don't often see a flock of bald eagles. You do see flocks of turkeys and chickens, you know, but you don't see like a whole bunch of eagles together. Anyway, so in other words, we need to have a variety together in order to make a good difference. So that leaves us to the last habit as we're wrapping up for the day. And so the last habit is sharpen the saw. So let's go through all the habits together. What's the first one?
Be
proactive.
Yep.
Begin with
the end in mind.
Yep. Third,
Put
first things first.
Yep. Then what?
Think win.
Win.
And fifth,
seek first to
understand
and to be understood.
Number 6,
synergize.
And 7, sharpen the saw. What does it mean to sharpen a saw? Well, it means you're taking care of your body, yourself. You're eating right, you're exercising, you're getting sleep. You spend time with family and friends when it's allowed, or you're doing a social video call with them, and learn lots of ways and lots of places. So the example of this is if you have a man who's been cutting or is trying to saw down a tree for 3 hours and he still hasn't gotten through it, what could be wrong with the man's saw? Could be dull, right? So there's an old story about 2 guys that had a competition to cut down as many trees as they could with an axe. And so the first guy just immediately started, and the other guy sat down for an hour and sharpened his axe. And the first guy, you know, by the time the second guy started, he'd already cut down like 10 or 12 trees. But the next guy, you know, he was able to cut down the trees with fewer swings and quicker, you know, so he didn't start out immediately quicker, but by the end, he was able to get a lot more trees cut down because his axe was sharper. And the same with us. You know, if we're not taking care of ourselves, we're going to be a dull axe or a dull saw, and we're not going to get much done. So it's important for us to take care of ourselves because, you know, whereas you could, if you have a car and it like catches fire or something and you have to get a new one, Not that that's happened to anyone here, but just for instance, you know, you can get another car, but you know, if your life gets burned up, you know, it's over. You don't have another life that you can run another experiment on. You know, so you have to take care of yourself. So what does it mean to take care of yourself? Well, you have different components. You've got your body, you know, are you exercising well? Are you being healthy? Do you sleep well? Do you relax? Do you have ways to relax? What are you doing to your brain? You know, are you feeding your brain? Are you learning? Are you reading? Are you writing? What about your soul? Do you take time to journal? Do you take time to think? Do you take time to meditate? Do you take time to pray? What are you doing to strengthen your soul? And what about your heart? You know, are you doing things to serve others? Are you taking time to laugh and have joy and fun in your life, and to be a friend and to have friends? You know, there's a lot of different components in your life. You know, what are you doing to help yourself be strong, especially when we're isolated and we're not able to hang out a lot with each other? So, question: what do you do to take care of your body, and what do you not do? And can you think of anything you can do to improve it?
Eat healthy foods.
Eat healthy foods. Okay, that's a good thing. They say garbage in, garbage out. So don't put garbage in, put good things in, and then you get more energy. What else can you do?
Exercise.
Exercise. Yep. Yu Chen, what else?
Talk with friends.
Talk with friends. Yeah. Spend time re-energizing. What about your brain? What are you doing to help your brain? What should you do? What should you not do? Do you have a friend that really works on improving their brain?
I do logic puzzles, like math logic puzzles, and fine.
Okay. Logic puzzles. Yeah, that's fun. I used to do Sudoku. Sudoku? Whatever it's called.
Sudoku.
Yeah, that's it. Sudoku. Evidently, language was not my first skill. So anyway, but what else do you do to help your brain?
Read books about topics I want to learn about.
Read books about topics you want to learn about. Yeah, read.
Listen to some meditative music.
Listen to good music. Yep. Anything else you do to help your brain?
I crochet, and that helps me like focus on things and arrange all the ideas in one way. So
yeah, my mother does that a lot. She crochets and makes bears and things like that. My wife goes for walks and she listens to podcasts, and then she thinks through thoughts, and she comes back and often will sit down and write like 500 words almost every day, you know, just in a journal, you know. So yeah, that's just a way to provide self-care. What about feeding your soul? So in the South of America, we have what's called soul food. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but anyway. So what feeds your soul? What inspires you and gives you peace? What are some songs or movies or books that make you want to be a better person? Is there a person that you know that makes you want to be a better person? Like I've heard it said that some friends are like escalators, like you see in the mall, where it takes you up to a new level. You know, do you have some friends that take you to a new level? And hopefully you don't have people that take you to a lower level, but you know, friends that take you to a new level. So what do you do to feed your soul? Any thoughts there?
I enjoy reading the Bible and talking to God.
Yeah, reading the Bible, talking to God. That's a great way to feed your soul. What else?
I enjoy singing worship song, gospel song.
Okay, singing. Yeah. Singing to God, that can feed your soul, give you joy and peace.
Mm-hmm.
Watch gospel movies.
Yeah, watch gospel movies. Like a few of us got together a couple weeks ago and watched The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Which is kind of a fun movie. Has some good truths to apply. Great. Okay, one last set of questions with that is, so does your heart matter? Are you serving and helping others? What things do you do to make friends and or to make other people happy? Can you think of someone you know that's really good at, helping others? What do you do that's, makes your heart sing? So I've heard somebody said it's like, what makes your baby jump? Or what gives you absolute delight?
Like when we went to Washington, D.C., it was
Yep.
fun to hang out in the van and talk and laugh together.
Okay. Yep. So for some people, especially talking and laughing and what we call quality time, spending quality time with someone really just feeds their heart and makes them, just want to sing or dance or shout and say, "Wah!" What else makes your heart happy? Your heart sing?
Volunteering.
What was
Volunteer.
that?
Volunteer.
Volunteering, yes, volunteering and helping someone else, yeah. Because when you're giving to someone else, it just has a way to bring joy to you, and it's unusual. There's no evolutionary reason why volunteering or generosity should make sense, but yet people do it because it makes you feel so good.
I like giving. I like having people who wants to. Like having people in my house or in my apartment if they need place to stay.
Okay. So extending hospitality.
Yeah, giving like hospitality.
Wow. That's really amazing. And that's one of the things that we, strive to do at IFI is trying to help the world feel at home. And so part of that is hospitality. And it's one of the things that Ellen and I love to do, which is have people in our house. So, okay. Well, we're coming up on our last 10 minutes, so it's time to, this has been really good discussion. But let's think about, so now what? So first, I just personally believe that whenever you learn something, you haven't really learned it unless you share it with someone else. So we've got some teachers on the line, so they know that that's true. One of the best things to do is to learn something is to teach someone else, because then you learn it even more. So think, okay, everybody get a piece of paper. Think, who's one friend that you can share one thing that you learned with? Think of somebody. Okay. Second thing is, we're going to go into more detail on these things over the next few weeks, so maybe you have a friend that would like to join. So think about who you can invite to join our class. Then the third thing is I really encourage you to get a pad or a paper or a notepad or something, and just start writing down some things, so things that you heard or thought or understood or have questions about, whether it's physical. I'm old school, I like physical things. Some people like digital things on your iPhone or your Android. Just keep track of some of your thoughts, record your thoughts. Then in the book, hopefully everybody has the book by now. If not, you can order it today and it'll be here tomorrow or Friday. But on page 28, there's a list of 10 things. There you go. Some things that you can do to take what they call baby steps. So I like the first one. It says, the next time you look in the mirror, say something positive about yourself. And that's just trying to be proactive, and so things of that nature. So everybody should be reading the next set of pages, which in the email, it says which pages to read. I don't have it right in front of me at the moment, but we read 30 pages the first time. I think we got to read about 40 pages between now and next Wednesday. So now I just want to give a couple people an opportunity to say, what have you learned? Is there anything that you've learned today that you could apply tonight or tomorrow or this week and apply anything that you learned out of today? Who can share something you've learned and you can apply?
Hello.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the happy for think win-win gave me very, deep impression, because the success is not just for self. If you can make the people around you success together, there will be, how to say, the whole thing is gonna be, you're gonna bring this whole thing, the big success to the next greater step, I think. Yeah, I think it's what I learned.
Good.
And I can use this, yeah.
Yeah, I hope that this class provides you some really applicable things that everybody can use. So thanks for sharing that, Jungshua. Who else has something that they've learned today that they want to apply this week?
I found it helpful in the second habit of beginning with the end in mind, how you kind of talked about having an end in mind allows us to decide what we're going to say yes and no to kind of get us to that end goal. And so also the idea of like writing a mission statement, kind of like you said about the person that you want to be to help determine what you want to say yes and no to, I think is a really like applicable and tangible thing to do on a day-to-day basis.
Good. Thanks for sharing, Manny. I really appreciate that. Those are some really good things. Knowing what to say yes to and what to say no to.
I think, yeah, I agree with Maddie. And it's also related to how we teach students that we should, it's called like UBD, understanding by design. We need to start from the end first. What should we achieve first? Then we can design the lesson to achieve that.
Okay. So if we understand where we're going, it's easier to design a way to get there.
Yeah.
So I was teaching actually earlier this year, and I was talking about goal setting, and I said that I had been really busy at the beginning of the year, or at the end of the year. I had set aside 2 weeks of vacation to really think through my goals for the year and really plan out what I was going to do. But then unfortunately my father-in-law died. And so I ended up spending 2 weeks out of town, just helping work through that situation and getting everything ready and all that stuff. And so I spent actually no time preparing goals for the year. And so I said, it looks like my goal this year is to accidentally thrive in multiple areas of my life. And I kind of said it as a joke, but really that's the way a lot of us live. That our goal is to accidentally thrive. We don't really have a goal, but I've got a cartoon where a little kid is shooting an arrow at the fence, and then as soon as he shoots the arrow, he goes up and makes a bulletin or a bullseye around it. And he tells his friend that it's a lot easier to hit your goal if you shoot first and then say that's your goal later. So, and that's the way a lot of us live life. But that second habit, begin with the end in mind, is where do we want to go? We're not created the same. We have different interests. We have different desires. And so, we don't all end up being the president. We don't all end up being astronauts. We all should be doing something different because God's made us differently. And so, knowing where we're going will help us know what to say yes to and what to say no to. So, really good things. We got time for maybe one more person to share what they could apply this week.
I think for me is the story you shared about setting goals reminded me that there are so many times, and I do that too, that I want to set priorities, like the number 3 of the habits, without first doing the first 2 ones. Making sure that if I set the priorities, I work on them, and I'll set the goals. So I think I'll start thinking the 2 before the 3rd one.
Very good. Okay, so hopefully this has been helpful for you. I think leadership is communicating people's worth and potential so clearly that they're inspired to see it for themselves. That's a little quote there at the bottom. I want to make sure that we have everybody's email, and you're part of the WhatsApp group, I mean. So if you're not, if you didn't get that list, if you can hang on for a moment afterwards, we're going to make sure that we get you updated. But that's the goal here. You know, we want to make sure that we stay in communication and that we can keep track. And our goal is for each person to improve and be better by the end of this session. So we've got a few more weeks, but a great opportunity to grow personally and individually, and then together as a group through this time together. So I'm really glad that we had this time today, and I hope that you all found it beneficial. I'll send an email to everybody with a couple of these things on this page as far as what's going on. I'll also put a PDF. I created a folder for everybody where we can interact with, as well as the WhatsApp group would be a good way to interact and have, as you're reading the next couple of chapters, if there's something that really confuses you or really, helps you out, just put a note in the WhatsApp group so that we can, communicate through the week and continue to grow and learn together. So with that, that's the end of our class number 1. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and hopefully we can, meet again soon. So let me see, I think,